right. Well, Paul, I'm so excited to have you back on the podcast. It's been like a year and a half, maybe.
Maybe,
We did
maybe.
we did the last episode on the void, remember?
Oh yeah. And then before we did something on, what was it, on conspiracies or something?
Oh yeah, that was actually the last one we did. I think the first
Oh, was
one we
it
did was on the void.
the void?
The void. That in between space where everybody gets
Mm.
lost and feels like the end of the world.
The liminal
That's
loonies.
that's interesting, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like thinking about what we're going to be talking about today and Pisces season. And I mean, definitely in the midst of pulling the astrology together, I was just like, wow, we're going to be like in some trippy liminal space over this next month or so. So, anyway, welcome back and welcome
Thank you.
to everyone who's joining. So excited to have Paul back on the podcast. We are diving into Pisces season and doing things differently today. Paul is bringing his tarot expertise. It's really cool. He does these weekly tarot readings and he's very narrative with his readings. And so I'm excited to kind of see how we break down Pisces season together. And
Mm.
I'm in the hot seat as the astrologer, and I just need everyone to know forecast astrology is very different than what I typically do with natal charts. I'm not a professional astrologer. So if you are a professional astrologer and you're listening and you're like, girl, Anna, this and that, like, feel free to let me know. But give me some grace. Give me some grace. So first and foremost, Paul, I would love to know what has Aquarius season been like for you?
Uh, well, first and foremost, I mean, I'm looking forward to your astrological forecasting because you every time you and I talk, you geek out on this. So I have faith in you. I know it's going to be awesome. I'm sure there's someone that can nitpick, but they'll nitpick anything. So anyway,
True.
full faith. Um, Aquarius season for me, has been really about the beginner's mindset, about getting into that, like out of the comfort zone, intellectual curiosity, finding out, all the looking at unconventional ways of doing things. Because even a message I got today on a meditation was everything you seek and desire is off the path. And so I've like this past month, even even before that, definitely have been focused on accepting that I don't have to fall in line with everyone as a form of creative self-expression or expression in general. So that's been my big Aquarian sort of energy.
Yeah. Well, it's huge. I mean, first, I know it's huge for you personally, just in regards to kind of how you maneuver through life, but then just that lesson in and of itself is so Aquarian because as Aquarians, I mean, like they are the unique folks in the bunch. It's like I feel like I can spot an Aquarius just like left, right, and center now. Like it's the girl who wears the super outlandish, wild colors, nothing matches, and it looks so perfect on her.
Mm, yeah.
Like if I was to do that, it would be like, what's happening, Anna? Are you
Do
okay? Like,
we need to talk?
yeah, because that's not me, but like Aquarius is just such a unique energy. And so I kind of love that sort of like reminder to push outside of our limits, very much get outside of our comfort zone.
Hmm.
Um, I think for me, Aquarius season has really been a lot about balance, getting more in balance. I really feel the energy that we're getting ready to step into, that we're going to be starting to step into at the end of February, moving into March and April. And I think my body's just been really preparing. Obviously, we've got like 2 days left of registration for Access Your Akashic Soul, which I'm so excited. And so there's been just tons of preparation in that. So it's just been, I don't even honestly, I feel like time is flying so fast right now.
Hmm.
Just going through the notes, I was just kind of like, okay, this and that. Um, I will definitely say that the February Akashic forecast for folks, please revisit it. Again, as I was pulling everything together astrologically in regards to a lot of the energy that we're getting ready to step into. The Akashic forecast is going to be a great resource in that regard to just kind of go back and kind of connect some dots, get a little bit more resourced in that area. Um, Paul, I know, is going to be really kind of breaking things down from for us energetically on that end as well, which will be great. But just don't forget the February Akashic forecast, and of course, I'm all excited. My brain can't think of what our theme was for February. But let's kind of dive in. I'd love to, first of all, Pisces season kicks off on the 18th. So February 18th to March 20th, which is a nice little month. Some of like Pisces, they're pros, they're very artistic. And I'm talking about energy, not like just Pisces as the person or the sign.
Yeah.
Very artistic, compassionate, intuitive, kind, talented, creative. Honestly, because Pisces is also Jupiter ruled and I'm, mega Sag. I love my Pisces people. I struggle though a bit in Pisces season because it can just feel too liminal for me. And then some of the more challenging aspects of Pisces, and I think that are really we're going to see a lot of that this month just because there's going to be so much Pisces energy is a lot of fear, feeling afraid of a lot of different things, codependence, the need to
Hmm.
escape, naivety, victim mentality, being unrealistic,
Yeah.
and because there is so much happening in Pisces season with other planets in Pisces, it's going to be a whole lot. I know you pulled some cards for like kind of an overview on Pisces
Mm.
season. What's your kind of thoughts? Let's start there.
Yeah. Thanks for the setup. Uh, the very spot on, definitely with the Pisces. My mom's a Pisces, and so I always think of my mom and just that very caring, nurturing, and just very sensitive as well. Very but very just gives and gives and gives. And
So
but
supportive of you.
yeah, and the opposite, flip side too. I see that as well, right? I mean, we all have fear and anxiety. We all, I mean, that's not limited to one zodiac, but it definitely, or lack of boundaries, like like the codependency, that can be very strong too. You know what? When I was looking at the cards, it's funny, you mentioned something about in preparation for and you mentioned your body a few times. One of the cards that did come up, this is talks about um reminding you that your body has its own intuition, right? And so we're talking about that Piscean intuition way of approaching, and that not everything we talk about the mind and heart a lot, but we sometimes forget this physical vessel that it has its own, the body keeps the score, et cetera, and has its own knowing. Talking about the gut, sometimes the gut has its own mind, has its own way of processing different than the brain. And
Yeah.
so the overall, looking at the overall energy is just that physical reminder, and also tapping into that this season is going to be very much about deepening the intuition. There's also going to be a call to resting more. And this is what the Four of Swords. And I'm not talking about the type of rest where it's like have a nap on a Sunday afternoon, which is lovely. Don't get me wrong, that's a nice thing. But the type of rest that is replenishing, that is going to allow, see, because then we also have another swords. This is the Page of Swords. And so this rest is going to allow the Page of Swords to do its work. And so this is going to be inspired creative thinking, insightful observations. There's going to be a desire to delve into some things. And also with that, and daydreaming too, the Piscean, sometimes we can get a little too up here. The Piscean energy can be up here. And so it's going to be important, uh, with perception. What is your perception on how you're approaching yourself and the world? This is going to be a powerful time to be of service to spirit and to others. There's also going to be some challenges. You mentioned fear and all that, and I'm going to mention that in, I think it's week 3, but that is going to be something that's going to come up. And so it's understanding. If you look here, the eyes are kind of covered there, so there's a glare on this. But we have to be careful that we're not blinded by just giving for the sake of giving, or doing things without thinking of what the outcome may be, and not being reckless with ourselves. And what's most important is, when I look at this card, is this is about personal power. And so when we look at our personal power during this season, is, are we giving our power away, or are we holding it? Are we using it in a way that is in alignment with who we are and who we want to be? And, are you distorting your perception to stay in the comfort zone? Are we giving away our power? Because again, it is comfortable. With this is also I think I'm going to talk about this in the first week, is there's going to be also a transition from that Aquarian energy into allowing some of that intellectual prowess in. Because again, we want to balance this dreaminess with a little bit of groundedness. And I think that's what you talked about. Sometimes that Piscean energy can float off, and we want to have a sense of grounding. So this is really about checking in with ourselves throughout the season. Where are we with our personal power? Where are we with our perception, our intentions, our motives? And so just using that as sort of a North Star for us. And really, to me, it's just about the personal power, because it's so easy to give that away under the guise of selflessness. And so that's kind of what I saw in general. Of course, we'll get into more specifics, but all of that is going to be under this umbrella of how are you with you?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that distraction is going to play just a massive role as we move into Pisces season in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
Um, and it is so easy for us to get distracted. It's like when we're going through our own internal stuff, we want to like fix other people around us. We
Yeah.
start kind of latching on like, ooh, let me fix you. Ooh, let me tell you what you need to do.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I mean? Instead of really pulling that back to ourselves. Then I think that there's going to be a strong impetus for that this month, because we will be, again, that Pisces energy is very high. And so those like upper chakras, right? And
Mhm.
really needing to ground into ourselves, ground into the safety, the security, um, of who we are, so that we can actually do that work. When I kind of like was looking at the overview, Pisces season in general to me looks like a period of like a lot of deep internal work, self-discovery, potential transformation. The February Akashic theme was coming to the surface. And I think that that's really, again, just one more resource to go and look at, because there's going to be a lot that is taking place on a very deep internal level, and a lot that's taking place in the external world. And if we're really not grounded, like we could just kind of lift off. Um, you know, Connecting with your spirituality is going to be huge this month. Being creative, like, prioritizing that, however that is for you. Paul's been getting outside, taking lots of gorgeous photos and having fun in that regard, whether that's maybe painting or writing or doing fun things with your friends.
Mhm.
Relationships is a huge theme this year, or this season. And really approaching relationships from a place of curiosity and self-reflection is going to be massive this month. But I very much see this being it's so interesting, because back in November, when I put Access Your Akashic Soul on hold, I kind of felt like it was already very apparent to me that I was going to be launching the course in February. And it felt like, for whatever reason, and I didn't know the astrology or anything, but it felt like we're getting ready to go into this cave. And like, this is like the perfect time to start working with the Akasha, and like just energetically, And then again, in preparation for today's show and just listening to what you're saying too, it's like, exactly, this is so perfect. Whether you are working with the Akashic records, whether you are like regardless of what your spiritual practice is, sitting with this, being with this is going to be so, so important throughout this
Mm.
month. Um, so let's kind of like, I guess maybe kick things off with, I know that you and I had talked about breaking things down like week to week.
Mhm.
Um, so can you give us some dates for the weeks? Do you have those? If
I
not,
don't
that's
have the
okay too.
dates. I don't have the dates.
Okay, no
Didn't look.
worries.
I didn't get that prepared. I didn't bring my calendar with me. I just knew there
I can
was
offer up some dates, I think.
okay. That'll be
Okay.
good. I
So,
can
first date probably like February 18th to like kind of the 25th. So, yeah, our first week. So, let's kind of look at that.
all right. Okay. Phew. We got we got saved by Anna with the dates. This is uh
It's all good, man.
okay, so when I was looking at the and this is one of the things that I do when I do tarot is, and this is the way that I was taught, and this is the way that I teach people, is I don't get too technical with, well, it's this card, it must mean this, and that's all. It's very flowy. It's a kind of Piscean, almost a way of it's very flow. So it's a lot of visual. I see a lot of visual. So first and foremost, there's a return. It's returning to the order of the heart in many ways. And there's going to be a focus on giving and stepping into balanced decision making this week. You're going to be asked to make some critical decisions. And you're going to be asked, and this is, reminding not to over intellectualize, don't overthink it, and to don't overanalyze it, because you get into that paralysis by analysis. And so this is a reminder, a big, you can see returning to the heart. And, again, when I was looking visually, I'm going to show you the little succession of cards here. Uh, we have, I see the eyes, right? I don't know if
Mm.
you can see the eyes here and the hands. And then with the other two, talk about hands.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so to me, these are like grasping, searching, seeking, but also giving. And so there's a lot of vision and there's a lot of like almost a tactile. And so it's kind of like, where are the eyes gazing? Are they coming from the heart? Are they leading to the heart? This would be maybe a time about giving without expectations, which is very Piscean, but it's being vulnerable and open about it. It's also about having that parental love, and even if it's to yourself. And so when I say about giving, it can also mean to you. It doesn't have to be to the community at large, but because a lot of times we neglect ourselves in the giving part, in the
For
giving
sure.
department. And so also when I look at ace now in tarot, the aces are new beginnings. So this is, you talked about, this is now where you might find creative inspiration. There might be artistic creativity. It could be a way of living, because creativity is not just about art. It could be a new romance. It could be a new relationship, a new friendship, a new position. Um, can also usher in a passionate pursuit of a goal that you might have that you've been holding on to. And maybe this is a great time to start that new thing, because you've got a lot of ace power. You've got a lot of openness of hands going. There might be a strong, renewed sense of purpose. And again, now that we're going to be, that will be past Valentine's Day, but there could be some sort of spark that's been lit because of this ace energy. And this is about emotions, this is about action. And so it's really integrating the two through the lens of the heart space. So that's what came up for me in that first week.
I love that. I love that. It feels like, I mean, even though we'll be past Valentine's Day, it still feels like, and I'm not some big Valentine's Day person, and I agree with a lot of astrologers that I think Valentine's Day is in the wrong place in the calendar. But at the same time, one of the themes in the February Akashic forecast again was very much about heart opening, like
Mhm.
that being a core part of it. And again, Pisces is very open in the heart. Pisces is to me almost childlike,
Mhm.
in their naivety,
Mhm.
and that's like one of their most endearing traits. I mean, like Pisces women, I remember reading about them when I was young, but it's like, you think they're like, because they're soft and gentle, that they're frail. And like, yo, some of the most intense, like business women I've met are Pisces. Like, they're gentle and feminine and soft, and they get in like a boardroom and they're like, what? Like, bring it, you know? I love it. But yeah, so that really aligns a lot. Um, I think when I looked at the transits for Pisces season in general, Saturn is still in Pisces. Neptune's going to be in Pisces until the very end of March. And that's really where it's going to be shifting. We've got the North nodes that have now moved into Pisces. And right at the tail end of Pisces season, we're going to be hitting our first eclipse in Pisces. Like it's major Pisces energy in Pisces season. And the planets, these are big collective planets. And so this is not just going to be happening on a personal level. When we look out on the world and we look at what's happening in politics right now, we look at the economy, like things are going to feel very liminal. They're going to, again, those shadow aspects, a lot of fear is rising. I can already feel that. A lot of victim mentality. I'm seeing that so much. The body, I mean, oh my gosh, the Akashic records for 2025 Akashic forecast, that was one of the main themes is the body. And I have
Interesting.
already seen so much in my own personal circle, people getting like cancer returning, close members in their families are in the hospital, potentially, passing away, others who are like major things. And even my own. I mean, I've been, I'm a bit hormonal right now. I've been working really hard and like my body is like, I've got like things happening like a cold sore and sore in my mouth. And it's this reminder that like if we don't take care of ourselves, and that was the big message from the Akasha, like your body will break down this year. Like this is not, we can't push ourselves the way we used to anymore. The body takes on the brunt of everything, and we're going through a lot right now.
Oh yeah. Well, with me, I've got body with joints and this, and I've got also it feels like, just as you were talking about that, and I was thinking, because we talk about the mind body spirit connection so much, it's sometimes when I'm feeling this way and it's been like this, I'm like, what's this to mean? Like, not that it has to mean everything has to mean something, but I do sometimes wonder, like this physical, all of a sudden out of the blue, I've got all this issues. Like, what is being born from this? Like, what's manifesting? It's like your body speaks when the rest of you can't. And I'm just, and sometimes it just is, if you get hit by a car, you get hit by, like, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but there is something about the body that we tend to ignore a lot. But there's so many messages. It has its own language in a way. It has its own intuition, has its own mind, if you will. So wisdom is what actually I was trying to say.
It's constantly trying to rebalance us always, and I know for me, like this cold sore popping up, this, I haven't been sleeping correctly. I haven't been, like, when I have taken downtime, like you're talking about the right kind of rest, like I'm
Mhm.
still on my phone. I'm still, like I'm
Yeah.
not resting properly in a way to really replenish my system.
Yeah.
And I haven't been grounding as much lately as well because I've just been so busy. And so it's 100% my body being like, yo, Anna, like chill out. And I literally, one of my Akashic mentorship clients this week, I mean, her mom just found out some very dire news. She's been going through a
Mm.
lot with her two children, and she's got this infection in her mouth and then also in this other area of her body. And she's just like, what's happening? And I'm like, her guides are like, stress, like period. This is what's happening. And so we've got to pay attention to these things. These are not things that we can bypass anymore. And
Yeah.
Pisces, again, this type of energy will will want to escape. We'll want to focus
Mhm.
on something else. We'll want to distract ourselves. We'll want to be like,
Yeah.
no, 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 I'm fine. I can handle this. I can go harder. And then guess what? Like the repercussion is going to be that much more. So again, going back to what you were saying, the slowdown is massive.
Yeah. Yeah. Precisely.
Let's dive into week two because we've got our first lunation on the 27th. So the dates would be like Tuesday the 25th to the third. Wait, ah, we'll get it here. If I can find it. Yeah, to the
March.
4th.
That'd be in March, I guess, right? We're
Yep.
going into
Yeah,
March.
we'll be into March. That second week
Right.
will take us in.
Um, well, you hunt that down. But it's funny you mentioned lunation because the overriding, I tend to I also have an oracle deck that I use here, and I kind of use that as the as an overriding, and we have the mandal of the moon. And so this is going to come up again, actually, believe it or not, this same card. And so that means to me that there's something powerful. This is really about like this is going to be a powerful week, this one. This is about grounding in spirituality and like you talked about like really stepping into that spirituality. This is a call to that action about manifesting abundance, living in alignment with your values, trust, acceptance, positive energy. And so it's going to be a big week. And the one thing that came up was the sun. And the sun is it can symbolize a spiritual awakening. It can have a deep sense of inner peace and illumination of your soul's desires or purpose. So this is a very radiant, big energy. It's a major arcana card. And along with that, speaking of, we got the Hierophant, which is, it could be you said, you talked about not grounding. Like this is like your reminder to start ground, like to ground again, to create that spiritual routine that we all strive for. Some days we get to it, sometimes we don't. But the more that you are grounded in that, in yourself, in your habits, the greater you can delve into. People think you have to take off onto a mountain or something, and no, you can be in some dodgy apartment, paying extraordinary crazy rent and have noises and distractions and rats but you can still be deeply grounded in your spirituality because it's your habits. And so this is a reminder of that tapping into source energy. And then the King of Pentacles, which is also huge when it comes to manifesting. Pentacles is really about health and wealth and earthiness. And so this is a way of connecting, mind, body, and spirit because you have this connection to source. But this is in a way the manifestation of that. It's that I'm trying to remember the universal law, perpetual transmutation of taking it from source in and through you. And, if you can hold it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. And that's what the King of Pentacles is really talking about. So, I mean, these three cards are really about calling attention to your divine power and the need to trust that the universe is opening doors for you. And whether it's a creative endeavor, building a new or newish relationship, building health or wealth, or a lot of it is just handing it over to creator, to divine universe, into divine intelligence, whatever you want to call it, and trust and have faith that is going to move through you. And so this is a big week. This is where you can be bold, right? I think of the full moon Leo, right? We just like that bold, unapologetic, really stepping into that energy because it's there for you. This week is giving you that space to step in a very bold way and emboldened because you've got a lot of power in that week, and which is going to be important because there are going to be challenges coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that week is really because it is like the week before March hits. And March and April are like astrologically, the two most intense months of the year. They're massive, massive months. And it feels so much to me like it is a preparation of what we're kind of getting ready to step into, and a bit like a coming back to self,
Mhm.
so that you can stand on steady ground through the midst of the upheaval that's coming, because it is like coming in like a huge way. On the 27th, we have the new moon in Pisces, and that's really kicking off our first sort of the new lunar node cycle that we're in. North node Pisces, south node Virgo. The full moon in Virgo in March is really going to kick off our first eclipse season. We'll talk about that in a bit, but like this new moon is huge, and being in Pisces and this being the first one, and this feels very mercurial to me. This feels very emotional to me. This feels very much like a lot of purging, quite frankly.
Mm.
So I think that it's, I would say feel into it in regards to your own personal self, because this is going to be hitting differently for all of us in our individual charts. This may or may not be a time to actually set new intentions for this new month. But I would just kind of feel into that for yourself. Also, I would 100% take a look at the house that Pisces rules and really like jump on Google, get to understand the themes of that house so that you can have an understanding, because that house and the opposing house are going to be where these lunar nodes are going to be kicking off for the next year and a half, and they're going to be doing a lot of deep excavation. And Saturn and Neptune have already been in Pisces for a while in our charts, so we should be pretty familiar with what's going on there. But they're going to be kind of like this, as the nodes move through this area, it's going to really be kicking out the final the final remainders of the big things that have been coming up for us in those houses. So really make sure to, be paying attention that lunar cycles, it's really going to be developing our compassion, our intuition. We'll be letting go of old patterns and definitely embracing new beginnings in that aspect of our chart. So if you feel called to set intentions on this new moon, then think about what kind of new beginnings would you like to create in this area of your life. So for instance, if this rules the fourth house for you, Pisces rules the fourth house, then that's family, that's home, that's the home within you. That is like your old karmic cycles and patterns. And those are things to just kind of look at for yourself. What are you ready to start something new in? So it's going to be an interesting new moon. Let's dive into our third week. So that's kind of kicking off on the 4th. The 4th of March. Just so wild. Like, are we really already going to be in March?
I was already casting my mind for like March. Oh my gosh, what do I have to get to? It's like we just
like we're
what is
almost at the end of the first quarter. Are you kidding?
I know. Oh my gosh. I know.
Just
I know. Oh
oh,
my.
I
All
always
right.
knew that like time ramped up the older that you got, but like
Oh, believe me.
yeah.
Before you know it, like the kids are at university and college. This is like it's just yeah, which is a reminder that you know
To be
that
present.
we're here to do the best that we can with what we have. And again, all of this information, I know you get lots of information from readings and this and that, but at the end of the day, it's you get to create your life. You get to create it. And we're not at the victim of all circumstances around us. And at the end of the day, it's the results. What you can take what you want from any of this, from any other readings or whatever, and it's just how can I use this in my way that will bring me to what I want. We all want different things. We all have our own dreams and goals, and maybe some of this doesn't resonate. That's fine.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely.
just
It's not meant to with everybody for sure, because it's going to
no,
hit us all
no,
differently.
it's gonna hit. And sometimes for a lot of people, a lot of it is subconscious,
Yeah.
right? And so part of the work is really allowing ourselves to peel back the layers, as they say, and just be curious. Really, just be curious with ourselves and what's happening and asking the right questions. Anyway, for this week, as I said, same card popped up, which is unusual because after I do that, I put it back in, give it the old shuffle, and that came up again. So to me, that again, that is pay attention. And again, this is about manifesting. This is about your spiritual values. It's you trusting source or whatever you want to call that intelligence to manifest what you desire. And it takes action. Of course, you don't just sit on your couch and wait for a Grammy to fall in your lap. It takes action, but you're not alone. You're co-creating with creator, with divine intelligence, universal mind. And what came up again was the Four Swords. Again, it's rest.
Yeah.
It's restorative rest. And you brought up a good point. It's not just closing the blinds and lying down. It's like, what are you reading? Are you doom scrolling every night? That's also part of rest, is like taking a walk in the woods, really detaching from the noise and allowing yourself to rest. I did a walk today in the woods, and what came up, the analogy was when you are in a big city, like I'm in a big city, when you look up at the stars, there's a lot of light pollution. You can't see everything clearly. But to me, that represents all the distractions and the noise. But when you step away from the noise, you won't go more rural. Guess what? It's so much clearer. You can see everything. And so you're being asked to step away from that as well. But in terms of action, there's lots of action. So you got Knight of Wands and the Eight of Wands. And that is like, let's get to it, right? Like, yes, we can, part of manifesting is doing stuff. It's not just like, yes, it's a connection with the universe, but you got to do the things. You're the one with the hands and feet and legs and torso. Like, you got to do the thing.
Yeah.
And so what you have to be careful though this week is taking urgent action, but against your values, against your principles. Like, don't like taking action for the sake of taking action. And so you have to really watch out for jumping ahead just for the sake of you doing something. So this is not being reckless, but it's being very intentional. And there's a difference. And so this is about a check-in. Is this in alignment with you? Because again, then we get into the hanged. And this is asking again, like at the beginning, we talked about perspective. Check in with yourself. What is, along with action is the feedback that comes with the action, right? So you take a step, something returns back to you. What is that? Check in with that. It could be, so this week, it could be also about shifting priorities. It could be a shift in, reevaluating your goals. It could be about adapting a more patient and deliberate approach while still taking action. So maybe you have to slow it down a little bit, but you're still moving ahead. It's just gearing down. Sometimes you have to gear up. So you're just continually checking in with yourself as you take the action. So you're not being reckless. So again, this is really about that manifesting and building, coming off of that powerful week of the sun and all that. So this is the week of momentum. And now really start clicking in and getting into gear, because it is in the next week that there might be some issues that come up.
Yeah. Well, and it definitely aligns astrologically in regards to what's happening. I mean, the thing is that, and I didn't mention this in our week prior, but Venus is also going retrograde, and it goes fully retrograde on the 1st. Right now it's in Aries, but it's going to be going retrograde. It'll go from Aries back into Pisces, actually on the 27th, and it'll be retrograde until the 12th. This is massive, massive energy, reevaluating relationships, our financial reflections, our self-worth, our values. Like, this is really big energy. I always know for myself that if I'm in the midst of a new romantic relationship, when a Venus retrograde comes around, like, yo, it's going to be tested. Um, and I mean, honestly, like, that's in full alignment because Venus is going to bring up a lot of things for us in regards to our values, and we're going to see things a lot more clearly. Um, but at the same time, again, like moving forward, because Venus retrograde is going to be with us. It's just going to be with us again until August 12th. But the week that you're talking about, this powerful week, that is when our first eclipse kicks off. that week. The 13th is our full moon in Virgo, which is a total eclipse. And it is this portal that opens up for 3 weeks until or 2 weeks until the 29th, the new moon in Aries. And one of the things I really want to mention here is that somewhere between the new moon in Pisces on February 27th, leading up to the new moon that's going to be in Aries in March, this is a really, really powerful time to set intentions for the year ahead. Way more powerful than setting intentions at the beginning of a new year. I mean, that Aries new moon is so powerful. So, create a, vision board, make a list, whatever it is for you and how you do it, like highly, highly, highly recommend. And this one's going to have this like eclipse connected to it. So again, this is major. And what you said at the very beginning when you're talking about all of this power is like intentioned action, and in the midst of this eclipse, in the midst of the Venus retrograde that we're already going to be in, hanging out with our first big nodal lunations. I mean, being intentional is going to be hugely important because there will be so much energy and so much impetus to make rash decisions that will not serve us long term. In addition, we're getting ready to the last week of the Pisces season to step into a Mercury retrograde. So we'll already be in the shadow during this week. So, and for me, the shadow is always way more dysfunctional than the retrograde itself on both ends of the retrograde. So pay attention. I mean, like really, 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 this is a huge time to be grounded, to be rooted, to be exercising your body so that you can move and clear energy out. Make sure to stay on top of your hygiene again, so you can clear that energy out. Eat good food, take care of your body, really minimize, like Paul was talking about, where you're spending your time online. Like this is massive. I mean, we're in March now, and as soon as we hit that first eclipse, like it's going to be a wild ride for the next 2 months really. So let's dive into that sort of last part of Pisces.
Yeah, it's funny you were mentioning all that about this sort of challenging and the shadow and all that. Again, the reminder, and it's interesting that throughout this Pisces, as I'm looking at these sort of overarching, again, sort of heart-centered, but this is another kind of rest, and this is about when you hang out with certain people in your life where you feel like you don't have to try, you don't have to converse necessarily, you just be in the same room. Someone could be reading a magazine, you can just be reading, and there's a comfort there. Those are the kind of people you want to be with, especially in this week, because it's after that roller coaster of just that intensity and hustle and motion. It's just like coming back to self, coming back to home. And this is where self-care, you just talked about, self-care is going to be really important. Create any creative activities. And again, creativity doesn't mean artistic necessarily. Creative can be reorganizing your cupboards. It could be how you organize your schedule for your work and life and all that kind of stuff. So just being creative, moving the pots and the furniture around, potted plants. So just that part. But what is going to also happen is a little tumultuous, because when you look at, there's 3 cards with 5s. And 5 as a number tends to be about conflict, challenge, overcoming obstacles. And so there is going to be it's like that dreamy, often confusing energy of Pisces we talked about can amplify feelings of anxiety, fear, betrayal, victimhood, you mentioned, all of those. So it can be to a point where it can be hard to distinguish the stories in our head from reality. Yeah. And so this week is going to be challenging because you're going to be challenged with stories. You're going to be challenged with stories of lack, of fear, of not having enough, And so that's why all that rest is being asked of you, because you're going to need your reservoirs to be self-aware that these are not true. They're only true as you make them. There might be externals, yes, absolutely. But it's like, again, how do you check in? Lead with your values. This is where like you return to the core of who you are and let that lead you through those decision making rather than hasty, rash, off the fly reactions, because that's not going to serve you.
Yeah.
And because you're only going to be hamstringing yourself, right? And and that's going to require leadership. Now, I know this is a five, but it's also the father. And so the father is really about, serving others, the community, family, but also self-leading, having that voice, having that presence, that confidence to help you move through the challenge of victimhood, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really about having the best interest of yourself and others at heart. And it's going to guide you during this sort of darker or more tumultuous week. And because you may feel intense, because now we've got the moon, right? We've got
Mm.
more there. And the moon is also the subconscious, it's emotions. And so again, you might feel emotional turmoil, struggling to understand your feelings. It could be, you might be navigating. You mentioned Venus retrograde. This is also indicating that you're going to have to navigate through some maybe complex interpersonal dynamics as well. And you may feel disconnected from others. And so really just to tap, like just be mindful of the emotions, that they're not overwhelming. And this can also feel like rejection and abandonment. Those wounds may come up during this time. But the key is to keep returning to source, keep returning to self. Like you talked about, that groundedness, step into more self-care. That's where it's important to, even if you have 2 minutes, go for that walk. Don't say, oh, I don't have enough time. You had 2 minutes to scroll on your phone. You have 2 minutes to step outside, take some deep breaths, do whatever it is that just fills your bucket, even not the whole thing, even little pieces, because that can be the difference between you overreacting or stressing out over something and you just going, not my circus, not my monkeys, not my circus. And it could help with that. So it's that sort of shadowy week that you talked about. So all of that work in the first, at the front end of this Pisces season is going to help when it feels like the wheels are falling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, like that's leading right into, Mercury goes retrograde on the 14th, March 14th to April 7th. And, you know, it starts off in Aquarius and then kicks it into Pisces on the 29th. Um, yeah, this is just, it's going to be, I mean, like this particular Mercury retrograde, some of the like the feelings that I wrote down around is like lead with curiosity, be really curious in regards to how you're interacting with others, how you're showing up, and so much for me, when it comes to more collective readings, in a lot of ways, this helps me to be mindful of what I may be experiencing from others, you know, um, so instead of taking it personally, it's like, oh, okay, this is kind of the energy of what's going on right now. So this might be what's happening. And that gives me a little bit of space to kind of step back.
Mhm.
So really leading with curiosity. It's a major time of inner reflection. Of course, we will be reviewing all areas of our life. And Mercury in Pisces, like it's sign of detriment. It's not happy in Pisces. It doesn't operate there well. And
Mhm.
so our communications, our technology, these things could definitely really struggle during this particular retrograde. Plus, it's attached and connected to and happening during an eclipse. So I'm almost positive that I should have looked it up, but this also happened in 2024 and it really caused a fuss. So again, slowing down, like Paul's talking about, getting outside, just taking those couple of minutes to just reground and recenter. And 100%, the whole thing, what was coming up as you're speaking, it's just come back to center, come back to center, connect with God, source, universe, whatever you'd like to call it. Really, really sink into your spiritual practice. You know, again, for those who do work in the Akashic records, I mean, just going and sitting and being in the Akasha during these times is going to be really helpful as well. Um, but it's going to be Pisces season is it's bringing it, man. It's like we're lifting off and we're kind of like, you know, the story is just going to continue when we step into Aries season. But right at the very end of March is when Neptune's going to actually make that first big ingress into Aries. Like that is like, I mean, the eclipse kicks it off, but the these are our biggest transits of the year. They're huge. So get ready, buckle in. It's serious. Not trying to make anyone freak out because it's 100% up to you. But take it seriously because like taking it seriously is the difference between suffering through this,
Mm.
feeling like, you know, caught up in fear and anxiety, or being able to kind of like ride through it and be like, all right, this is a lot, but I got it. I can handle it and or enjoy it. You know, it's really the big difference. So yeah, major Pisces season coming up for sure.
Just on that, I like what you said about instead of just suffering through it. I think that's the difference between, again, that personal power.
Yeah.
Are we holding on to it or are we giving it away? Because when we give it away, then we're in victimhood, we're in rumination, we're in that's that darkness of, you know, why does this always happen to me? Why? And the question, the curiosity is like, why not me? Right. And now it may suck. It will suck in the moment. Don't get us wrong. Not to paint like double rainbows and bunny rabbit. It will suck at times, but like you said, just okay. I'm aware that this has major suckitude at the moment, but what's the lesson in this? What's the gift in this?
Yeah.
and and because I really like what you said, like it doesn't, we don't have to suffer through it. If you're aware of kind of what's happening or have an idea like, okay, this is the kind of energy that's coming, okay, you can kind of prepare for that and just, you know, uh, govern yourself accordingly, really. It's
Yeah.
really like
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so any final words from you on Pisces season?
you know it's I think it's, you know, we talked a lot about that in intuition and really grounding yourselves because there's so much depth to it, and there can also be a lot of flightiness. And so we've talked so much about just returning to source, grounding, coming back, and I would just invite anyone who is feeling it, because it can feel so lofty and just like, oh my gosh, and you're like you said, you're lifting off, which is wonderful, but it's like, you know, it's like the giraffe, right? Like reaching for the stars, but also grounded. You know, that's it's a representation of just growth, but those long limbs are still they're still on the ground. And so be like the giraffe, reach up, but also stay in on the earth, right? Because that's why we're here. We're in this physical form for a reason. So we're not meant to float in the stars necessarily. We can strive for that in our souls. Obviously, we're coming from that energy, but also to come here and manifest, right? To really bring in into your life what is needed, what is desired.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I think it's, you know, buckle in and stay grounded. Laugh as much as you possibly can. Make enjoying life a priority.
Yes. Oh my
Hang
God.
out with people that bring you joy. You know, we don't need to, even though we are in the midst of serious times and shit is legitimately like falling apart, it doesn't mean we can't enjoy life in the middle of it. And we have to remember that there's always something for us to be thankful for, someone
Mhm.
for us to love, something for us to laugh about. I mean, like, we have to prioritize this though, because we are the ones who are responsible for our experience. So, you
Straight
know,
up.
it is what we make it. So, Paul, I'm so excited because you're going to come and teach our masterclass for March in the Soul Driven Collective. You want to tell us a little bit about it and anything else you've kind of got going on?
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait. So I'm going to be talking about, you know, tarot, and I mentioned this earlier in how I read. And so this workshop, what I'll be teaching is kind of directed to those people like who they like their oracle cards and maybe a little afraid to step into the tarot. It might be overwhelming and daunting and very strict and formal or whatever. Or maybe they've pulled a few tarot and just kind of flirting around learning. So this is going to be really about how to interpret it in your way, right? Like it can come across as very strict, like the swords means this. And yes, there are meanings, there are some intentions with these, but the way I was taught is the way that I'm going to teach, and that is really through sort of almost storytelling, and in a way that is like I look visually and just intuitively, and not be so uh, anchored into what the technical part of it. And so this is kind of like a gentle introduction into tarot and really doing it through a way that is through your lens, because that's really what it is. It's interpretation. And so it's just to demystify a little bit of the tarot. And there will be, some cheat sheets, if you will, and some things to really kind of give you some guidance, give you a little confidence. And I will share how I learned it myself.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, the way that you read to me is very intuitive. So, and I think that when I was first learning how to work with the tarot, it was very sort of regimented and systematic, and it
Mhm.
just took all the fun out of it for me. And
Yeah.
so I just kind of put it away for a long time. And when I come back to it now, and I'm not even I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
um, but I really lean into my intuitive self now. And I feel like
Yeah.
that is so much more fun to me and enjoyable than just like, this means this and this means that. And, the visuals and the feelings of the cards and these sorts of things, they play a huge role. So I'm very excited to have you. And we will be releasing like all the information, dates, and everything like that on March 1st. So make sure that you are a member of the Soul Driven Collective, whether you are a free or a paid member. And all of that information will be coming out and posted on my website. Um, and on my end, we have Access Your Akashic Souls getting ready to launch on the 17th, this Monday, which is insane.
Woohoo.
Registration closes midnight, Valentine's Day, and I am conducting an Akashic restoration group session. This is a group healing through the Akashic records. We're focusing on the topic of fear, and this is on the 27th. So if you're a paid member in the SDC, this is free for you. Um, you can also purchase this a la carte, and you don't need to attend live. I mean, these restoration sessions you can use forever. And so it's going to be really powerful. I'm very excited to do this. I've been called to really start working with a lot larger groups. And this will be the first one. So that's kind of what's happening on this end. Um, thank you so much for being here, Paul. You freaking rock, dude.
Yeah, thanks. I do want to mention one last thing too is I do offer soul guidance sessions, and you can go on my website, which will be in the notes, I'm sure. And I do have so where I'll do tarot and all sorts of other things like shamanic and all that. So that's something that I do offer.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I feel terrible now. I'm like, hey, let me be a good host. Hey, guest. Oh, yeah.
No, I forgot about that too. I because we love doing this, and so we're giving. What can we say? We're givers. What can I say? So,
Yeah,
but
no,
just in case someone
definitely.
wants something a little bit more personal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you also, as I mentioned on the front end of the show, do weekly readings on your newsletter, which is awesome. I love receiving those. So
Oh, thank
we'll
you.
make sure to put Paul's information in the show notes. Definitely hook up with him on social media. He's sharing beautiful photography and just doing cool stuff in a number of different ways. So again, thank you for jumping in, Paul, and for just being here. I so appreciate
Oh,
you.
thank you.
This was awesome.
Yeah, it was a pleasure being here. Thanks, Anna.
Yay.
So good.
All
You?
right, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in and being here, sharing your time with us. Be sure to share this episode with anyone who could benefit from it. Give us a rating and review on iTunes and Spotify. Thank you again. And don't forget, when we invest in ourselves, the world benefits. Until next time.